For Medicare, 3%. Far more efficient. Far more efficient. And copays are less. I mean,
Sam Seder absolutely loses it after Patrick Bet-David calmly and surgically exposes the flaws in big government logic live on air. Patrick Bet-David goes toe-to-toe with Sam Seder. Man, does Patrick Bet-David put him on the ropes. We're talking about big government waste, Social Security myths, and Patrick Bet-David exposing the inefficiencies. But enough talking, and let's immediately jump into this debate between Sam Seder and Patrick Bet-David.
So, the whole thing, like I remember when I first got out of the military and I went into the financial industry, it's 1999. I know nothing. It's 2000. I know nothing about now. The speaker gets up. Well, have you been noticing that the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poor? I'm like, okay, my dad's at a cashier at a 99-cent store 15 years. My parents got divorced twice.
I hope you said to that guy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Yeah. Wait till 20 years
but you're
from now.
Right,
it's going to be completely out of control.
But you're right, though. But why is the question? So here's a question for you. So you're saying above $3 million, that money that the owner's going to keep, we got to tax them 90%. Fine. Okay. So you believe the money, like when I was in the military, you would buy a product for the Humvees, and they would say, yeah, we pay $600 for this piece. We're like, dude, this piece is $40.
Right.
Why the hell are we paying $600 for? Well, the contracts. You know how they are, man. The government always pays a lot because they're dumb. They always pay more than it's usually worth. A $40 piece for a Hummer, they're paying $600. I'm like, that's an awesome business for the other guy.
Yeah, we have horrible oversight in the military.
But this is the point, though. This is the point. And I want to actually sincerely get your thoughts on this, on how we address this. So if somebody overpays for a product, that person's either got to be fired or they're an overspender or a terrible negotiator. But it's one of the three, right? Okay, so you feel money going to the government we do more good with, or money staying in the free market for people to produce more value? Where do you feel values produce more?
Well, I'm not. I'm not sure I fully get what you're saying, but let me put it in this way.
It's a very serious, simple
okay.
question.
Well,
I want it to be clear.
Let me make it a little bit more concrete.
Yeah.
So you guys know that the biggest part of the budget, more or less, is Social Security and Medicare, right?
And Medicaid, yeah.
And Medicaid.
Entitlement programs.
Yeah, you can call them entitlement programs. I call them social insurance programs because that's what they really are.
That's 90% of the budget, I want to say.
No, the military is about $850 billion. Social Security is like $1.7 trillion. I think Medicare is probably close to like $700 billion.
It's about 60%.
And then there's other. But
more.
It's a high number. It's a big number. You're right. It's a high number.
You'll find that it's. I think our annual budget is somewhere around like $2.7 trillion, and the military is like $800 billion, $900 billion. That you can see anyways that they show us.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Social Security, Medicare, the two biggest things that the government does are wildly popular. Medicare, you come from the insurance business, you probably know this. To administer health insurance, there's like 13-15% cost in the administration of that health insurance. For Medicare, 3%. Far more efficient. Far more efficient. And copays are less. I mean, and the whatever you want to call it, consumer satisfaction. I don't like to think of citizens as consumers, but the satisfaction's huge, through the roof, particularly when people use it. It's people appreciate it who don't use it. If I got my parents, they're on Medicare, I'm pretty psyched about it because I don't have to take care of them. My mother's in a nursing home now. It's Medicaid that's doing that. I'm not responsible for that cost. Social Security, through the roof. In fact, I think even a majority of Republicans want to expand.
But popular is not a way to qualify something. If I went out there and
satisfaction.
If I went to high school and I said, guys, I'm giving dime bags to everybody weed, I'd be a very popular kind of high school. So that is a wrong way to qualify.
You said efficiency.
Yeah.
Medicare, 3% administrative costs versus 15%.
That's like the kid that's running for class president who's like, every Friday we're throwing a pizza party.
Well,
he's going to get everybody's vote. But who's paying for the pizza party?
Well, workers. In fact, I would argue that we should be actually removing the cap on Social Security taxes because right now, it goes only up to $160,000, right? There's a cap. Traditionally, Social Security has captured or touched 91% of the country's income. You follow me? And now it's somewhere down in like the mid 80s because of wealth
Yeah,
inequality.
but your argument on the flip side of it, the argument can be as well to say, well, at the beginning when they came out with Social Security, there's only a few thousand people in America that was actually using it. It was not meant to be for as big of a behemoth of
Are you
what it is
kidding?
today.
No,
It
that's
kept
true.
2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. It keeps 2/3
I
of our
didn't-
elderly.
nobody's
out of
that's
arguing the
no one-
benefits of
that's not
Social
the argument,
Security.
though. That's not the argument. The argument is, originally when it came out, it wasn't for
Well,
the
they couldn't.
bigger percentage.
You had to wait. You had to wait until you build up the
you
funds.
didn't have to. You had to have capitalists work and overtax them to be able to fund it. That's what you had to do. But let me go back to the
I think
question.
what you are saying, just to validate your point, I think at that point, this is FDR back in
yeah,
the
we
day,
can pull up the data. That's
I think
not
there was
a,
40 workers for every retiree. I think now it's closer to like 3 workers.
Yeah, it's not
Yes, but
sustainable.
productivity-
even close.
No. It is sustainable.
You think it's sustainable.
No, I don't
not
think it's sustainable. I'm looking at the Social Security Trust
letter,
Fund
when,
actuarial
with the
tables.
letter when they sent you this in the Social Security letter, they're telling you if we go this way, this is going to go bankrupt.
No,
in the letter,
no. You're misreading it. The trust fund is going to go bankrupt. In 1981, Greenspan and Reagan expanded the trust fund. We had a surge of baby boomers. There is a trust fund that exists that is essentially like a rainy day fund. That is going to be insolvent around 3033.
2033.
20
years.
10
You are correct. I
Yeah.
just had this conversation this past week.
However,
that's not a concern.
However,
that's not a concern. That's not a concern.
it is a concern. It will
Where
cause 20% in cuts to our
Right.
benefits.
Okay.
But that's it, period. Now, the way that we can get rid of that 20% in cuts in this Social Security Trust Fund is to do what I'm suggesting. Remove the cap so that every dollar you make, even above $160,000,
Yeah, but
is taxed by Social Security.
Sam-
And then your kids
Yeah.
will be long dead before that
Well,
trust fund is out.
hopefully, if I raise my kids right, my kids won't need to be supported
If
by
they
the
don't
government.
need to be,
Yeah.
if they don't
So-
need that social insurance,
Yeah.
look, I mean, how can you, as an insurance guy, how can you not understand this?
No, I
don't sit around saying like, I hope that I don't need my fire insurance. I hope I don't. If your kids don't need Social Security,
Yeah.
old age insurance, then you know what?
But I
we
also
will tax the money back.
I am better for society. I am better for society if I find ways to get people off of needing any of this stuff than to rely on it more and more and more, because I'm truly hurting those who are creating commerce. That's who I'm hurting. But let me go back to my
Hold
question.
on for one second.
Wait a minute.
We had an experiment with
But
this.
wait a
Hold on,
minute.
let me just
Let me
finish
ask
the
the
Social
question
Security
for you. Let me ask the question. You still haven't answered my
401ks.
question for me. No, wait.
401ks
you
with a
still
private
You
solution.
still haven't answered my question. Let me go back to the question to you. So
Okay.
my question at the beginning, you have not yet answered. Okay. When you said, I would go back to the old tax system and I would take it to the 50s and 60s where we had a 90%. Okay. And I asked you a question. I said, who do you think produces more value? I gave the example of the Humvee, the pieces in the Army, how much we were paying, $600, but the piece was only $40. And the government tends to overspend because they're reckless spending. They're not really held accountable. Does money going in free market create more value, or money going to the government create more value for people?
Explain to me what you mean by value.
Okay, so value to me is, if I can give money to free market and lower taxes where they can go create more jobs, more opportunities, is that better for us long term, or is it better for us to raise taxes, to take away incentives and give that money, tax money, goes to politicians to make decisions what to do with the money? Are politicians better at making decisions on what to do with our money, or are we?
Bro, this is the mic drop moment from Patrick Bet-David. Who really trusts politicians to handle their money better than themselves? Patrick Bet-David is cutting right to the heart of the issue: personal responsibility versus government waste. And you can see Sam Seder just fumbling here. He doesn't even have a clear answer, because deep down, even he knows politicians screw this stuff up all the time. Yeah, so I mean, it's safe to say that Patrick Bet-David is basically speaking for all of us here.
I mean, I guess in a broad way, I would say if we're going to look at the biggest chunk of money in the government to make this assessment, right? $1.7 trillion, Social Security. And we can compare it to the one sort of like comparable thing in the private sector, and that's a 401k. I would have to say, I mean, just based upon the way you've set up this question, that obviously the government, because Social Security has been the single most effective program that we have in this country. It has kept 2/3 of our senior citizens out of poverty as a social insurance program. 401ks have been a disaster. They've been a disaster. Just Google right there in front of you, the 401k experiment. People took the money out. I mean, and grant you, like, you know, you can make an assessment that these individuals were stupid or immoral or whatever it is. I'm looking at the goal of keeping senior citizens out of poverty. The government has been able to do that far more effectively. 2/3 of our seniors are in nursing homes because the government is paying for it.
Hold up. Is Sam Seder bragging about how many people rely on the government here? Like what? Patrick Bet-David is literally saying we should be empowering people to be self-sufficient and not dependent on government programs. And Sam Seder's like, nah, let's keep everyone on the hook. Yeah, sorry, but I'm with Patrick Bet-David here. Helping people be independent is way better than celebrating how many people are stuck in the system.
You can look around at anything that doesn't involve a profit motive. Like, for instance, the post office. If we didn't have a government-run post office, do you think you could live in, you know, the most rural parts of the country and get postal service for 42 cents or 48 cents? You can send a letter? No way. What person looking to make a profit would do that? In fact, I've got a great example. This is, you know, I was doing radio during Katrina, and there was a story that haunted me for years and years. When Bill Clinton, I'm not a huge fan of Bill Clinton's administration, frankly, but one of the things he did do well was to build up FEMA. I guess having come from Arkansas, he had a pretty good sense of what was important there. And Bush, when he came in very early on, privatized a ton of it. There was a story, it was a very small story, in New Orleans. The buses that were supposed to come to New Orleans to evacuate people before Katrina hit, there was a whole ton of buses that went through 3 different contractors, right? There was like a general contractor and then a subcontractor, and then the subcontractor was going to bring the buses. They were from like 3 or 4 hours away. And maybe it was 6 hours. I can't remember the exact details. They were going to send the buses, but the guy whose job it was, who owns the bus company, and then the contractor above that, they waited longer, because if you send the buses and they're not used, they're going to eat that cost, right? It's going to cut into their profits. They didn't send the buses. They didn't get there in time. People couldn't get evacuated. Would it have changed the trajectory of the thing? I doubt it, but it would have saved some people. And the point is that there are some jobs that the government does better because the value there is not measured in terms of actual sheer dollars. It is measured in, you know, essentially how much immiseration are you inhibiting people from suffering.
Patrick Bet-David just methodically shreds Sam Seder's arguments, exposing how weak and outdated these pro-government takes really are. Patrick Bet-David stays focused on empowering individuals, creating jobs, and keeping government bloat in check. Meanwhile, Sam Seder's over here defending reckless spending like it's some sort of virtue. Patrick Bet-David was light years ahead on this one, and Sam Seder just couldn't keep up. What did you guys think? Because from where I'm sitting, this was total domination by Patrick Bet-David.